Chrysanthemum in Japanese and Chinese poetry. Chrysanthemum, or kiku in Japanese, is a recurring image in Japanese poetry, and is a prominent flower in Japanese culture. Even the imperial family of Japan uses the chrysanthemum seal, kikumo, as its symbol. Although it is a popular image in Japanese poems, it is not originated in Japan. Unlike images such as red foliage and the moon, chrysanthemum did not become the dominant flower in Japan until the Heian period. The Kokinshu, composed during the Heian period, includes several poems on the topic of chrysanthemum, while the Manyushu, an earlier collection of Japanese poems, includes none. This difference is due to the influences of Chinese poetry during the Heian period. Chrysanthemum is related to longevity and steadfastness in Chinese poetry, and these characteristics were passed on to Japanese poetry when the Japanese poets referenced the earlier Chinese poems in their work. We can see this relationship by analyzing poems written by Tao Qian, Bai Juyi, and Kino Tomonori. As the only flower that continues to bloom in late autumn, chrysanthemum can survive harsh environments, and Chinese scholars thereby relate it to longevity. During the Double Ninth Festival of China, which happens at the 9th day of the 9th month of the lunar calendar, people will drink chrysanthemum wine in order to preserve their life. This festival is still preserved in modern time as the Chrysanthemum Festival. Because of this connection to longevity, chrysanthemum became a favorite topic in Chinese poetry. Tao Qian, or Tao Yuanming, is a famous poet during the Eastern Jin dynasty and is strongly associated with chrysanthemum. Although Tao was a Confucian scholar, he gave up his government position and spent most of his life in reclusion. According to his poetry, Tao Qian kept chrysanthemums at the eastern fence of his garden, and they were his favorite flower. For instance, in his poem on drinking wine, he wrote, "From the eastern hedge I pluck chrysanthemum flowers, and idly look towards the southern hills." His reputation as a self-attained recluse was well known to every educated Chinese, and people respect him for his steadfastness and authenticity. Because of his connection to chrysanthemums, any representation of him would include chrysanthemums. As various artworks repeatedly strengthen the connection, eventually, the presence of chrysanthemum alone will represent the qualities attributed to him. One of his famous poems on chrysanthemums is "At Leisure on the 9th Day." This poem was written during the Double Ninth Festival, and part of the poem mentions the tradition of drinking chrysanthemum wine and connects it to longevity. Wine can derive out manifold cares. Chrysanthemums may arrest declining years. How is it with the rustic heart scholar? In want, he watches the season passing. The dusty cup shames the empty wine jar. The cold flowers vainly display themselves. In this poem, although Tao Qian was enjoying the chrysanthemums, he was sad because there was no wine to accompany the meal. Chrysanthemums in this poem help to construct the leisurely but lonely environment. And in the second line, chrysanthemums may arrest declining years. The poet connects the flower with the traditional value of longevity. The influence of Tao Jian can be found in the poem by Bai Juyi, the most influential and popular Tang Dynasty Chinese poet in Heian, Japan. Bai Juyi was popular in Japan because of his comparatively simple language and association to Buddhism. One example of his poem on chrysanthemum is Ode to the Chrysanthemum. Frost from one night lightly closes the roof tile. Plantain leaves, nearly shriveled, withered lotus droops. Only the chrysanthemums by the eastern fence withstand the cold. The newly bloomed golden flower, even clearer in the dawn. In this poem, Bai Juyi contrasts the withered plantain leaves and lotus with the blooming chrysanthemum in late autumn, again emphasizing the flower's ability to survive and its relation to longevity. The term Eastern Fence Chrysanthemum is no doubt a reference to Tao Jian. Because of his popularity, Bai Juyi's poem has significant influence on Japanese poetry, and we should expect similar references to chrysanthemum and Tao Jian in Japanese poems. During the beginning of Heian period, Emperor Kamo adapted the Double Lines Festival to Japan, and the qualities related to chrysanthemum, along with the tradition of drinking chrysanthemum wine, were also passed to Japan. Kino Tomonori is a famous Heian-era Japanese poet, as well as one of the compilers of Kokinshu, a collection of Heian Japanese poems. Thus, he is a good representation of Japanese poets of that time. Several poems by Kino Tomonori on chrysanthemums were included in the collection. One of them is poem number 270 in the chapter Autumn 2. The chrysanthemum, let me break it off, still wet with dew, and place it in my hair, so that the autumn will never grow old. In this poem, the poet puts a chrysanthemum in his hair, in an attempt to preserve autumn. Although not obvious, this poem is related to the Double Lines Festival. The dew on the flower in this poem is not only an autumn nature imagery, but also a metaphor for the chrysanthemum wine. By placing the chrysanthemum with wine in his hair, the poet tries to prolong autumn and his life by internalizing the characteristics of chrysanthemum into himself. The association between longevity and chrysanthemums demonstrates the influences of Chinese ideas. Another poem by Kino Tomonori is poem number 274. Composed on a figure of a person waiting beside chrysanthemum blossoms for another person. Looking at flowers, waiting for my love, I took the blossoms for the white sleeve of his gown. Although this is a love poem, it includes a reference to Tao Jian's A Leisure on the Ninth Day. According to the website Minor Club, the last 3 lines refer to what happens after Tao Jian's poem. in the Chinese history text Xujiangqiu. Right when Tao Qian was feeling sad for the lack of wine, he saw an envoy dressed in a white gown, and it turned out that the envoy was sent by Tao Qian's friend Wang Hong to bring wine for him. Knowing the story does not change the meaning of the poem. However, the additional background will enhance the sense of loneliness that the poet conveys. The fact that even a love poem refers to an earlier Chinese poem on a different topic demonstrates a significant influence from Chinese poetry on how chrysanthemums were used in Japanese poetry. In addition, the use of chrysanthemum in this poem is also mixed with a Japanese element. White chrysanthemum was a popular design for aristocrats' winter kimono during the Heian era. By describing how the person waiting mistook white chrysanthemums as a lover's gown, the poet might be trying to set the poem in winter, thereby further emphasizing the loneliness. This poem thus combines the Japanese and Chinese culture to give the image of chrysanthemum profound meaning. Through the analysis of these Chinese and Japanese poems, we can see that qualities related to chrysanthemums are shared among the two countries. Poetry from both countries emphasizes the quality of longevity. Japan learned natural imagery from Chinese poetry and incorporated it into its own culture to produce profound poems using chrysanthemum.